the story about a woman working at a small diner and a nameless, mysterious boy has left a deep impression on the readers. We will call her Sarah and the boy Max. A 10-year-old child, lonely and never showing a smile. Every morning, Max would go to Sarah's diner, sit in a quiet corner, order a glass of water, and silently read a book. Sarah was a gentle woman, living a simple life but hiding a deep loneliness. Though she didn't know the boy's name, she always felt Max's loneliness through his sad eyes and reserved demeanor. Every day, Sarah tried to help Max, unknowingly bringing him leftover meals from the kitchen. Even though the boy never asked, Sarah knew he needed food and comfort during the cold mornings. These simple gestures became a silent routine between them, an invisible connection but deeply meaningful. Mary Miller, 31 years old, was a waitress at Rosie's Diner, a small eatery located in a quiet corner of a peaceful street in Kansas. Every morning, she woke up before dawn, walked 3 blocks from her small apartment above the pharmacy, and quietly headed to work. She wore a worn apron and scuffed shoes, greeting regular customers with a bright smile. But few knew that behind that smile was a deep loneliness, a sense of isolation that only those who have experienced it can understand. Mary's life was simple, but also quiet and lacking true joy. She didn't have many friends, and her family consisted only of faded photographs from time. Her mother had passed away when she was 17, and her father had died when she was only 15. The only relative she had left was her aunt. But after her aunt moved to Arizona because of arthritis, Mary only had holiday phone calls and occasional letters. Days passed in a routine, unchanging, but one day, a boy changed everything. One morning in early October, as the first light of the day streamed through the windows of the diner, Mary noticed a boy about 9 years old, silently sitting in the farthest corner of the diner, with an old, oversized backpack and a book open in front of him. The boy ordered nothing but a glass of water, and every day, he sat there, silently like a ghost. No one knew his story, but in Mary's heart, the boy seemed to carry a sadness that she understood deeply. On the first day the boy came in, Mary sensed something special, but she couldn't have imagined that from that moment on, everything would change forever. After a few days, Mary began to notice the boy's routine. He always came in at 7:15 a.m. when everyone else had not yet started their busy workday. He sat in the far corner, where no one could disturb him. He drank a glass of water, ordered nothing, said nothing, just silently looked at his book. Mary thought the boy must have a reason for avoiding interaction with others. Their glances passed, but no words were spoken. Day after day, the boy's routine became familiar to Mary. She began paying more attention, watching him from behind the counter. The boy seemed to live a rather lonely life. No one visited him, no one paid him attention. Mary felt a deep empathy for that loneliness because she, too, had lived in a similar silent space. Each morning, Mary brought him a glass of water, but then she began to notice that he never ate anything. Whether it was a full breakfast with bread, eggs, or other dishes, the boy always sat quietly without touching the food. It was a habit that made Mary think. One morning, when the kitchen had accidentally made an extra plate of pancakes, Mary decided to bring the plate to the boy. She felt awkward as she placed the dish on his table, as if it were an unexpected gift from the kitchen. The boy looked at the pancakes, his eyes flashing a hint of doubt, but then he decided to try. When Mary returned, the plate was empty. She felt a sense of emptiness in her heart. The boy didn't say anything, just gently thanked her as she cleared the plate. That was the beginning of a new routine, a silent yet deeply emotional bond. Over time, everything became natural. Every morning, Mary would bring leftover meals from the kitchen and place them on the boy's table. Silent breakfasts passed by, with only quiet moments and glances exchanged. Though they didn't speak much, both seemed to understand each other more each day. The boy ate all the food she brought, but there was never a call for help. No stories shared. Yet, Mary knew she was doing something meaningful for the boy, helping him no longer face hunger and loneliness. These simple breakfasts were not just food but a gesture of care and sharing between two strangers who connected through small acts. A month passed, and everyone started to notice the special relationship between Mary and the boy. The diner staff, Regular customers and frequent visitors all noticed that every morning, Mary served the boy a glass of water and a free plate of food. Some didn't say anything, but others couldn't stay silent. Harold, a retired postal worker, couldn't help but ask Mary about the boy. Mary simply answered that she didn't know anything about the boy's family. But maybe he was just hungry. One day, Kathy, another waitress working at the grill, approached Mary and talked about the relationship. "You're feeding a stray," Kathy said, not unkindly, but with a more practical mindset, believing that children like that never learn gratitude if they just get food without doing anything in return. Kathy had seen many similar situations in the past, and those kids always disappeared once the help stopped. But Mary didn't agree with Kathy's viewpoint. She smiled and said, "It's like I was when I was hungry. Sometimes all someone needs is a little care." Facing the comments from those around her, Mary remained determined in her actions. She knew that she wasn't just providing food but offering the understanding and care the boy needed. Even though she didn't know much about him, those simple breakfasts made her feel like she played an important role in his life. The boy never asked for anything, but each time he ate the food Mary brought, she felt a sense of peace and satisfaction deep in her heart. Despite her deep commitment to helping the boy, the situation wasn't easy. One day, Mark, the manager of the diner, called Mary into the office to talk. "I've noticed this," Mark said, his eyes serious. "We can't have employees giving away free meals like that. It's bad for business. And it sets a bad precedent." Mary hesitated for a moment, then replied, "I understand, but I'll pay for the meals myself." Mark, though worried about the possible consequences, couldn't do anything when Mary made up her mind. Mary continued to use part of her tips to pay for the boys' meals. But she was also worried about how this might affect her job. However, she never regretted her decision. She knew that even just a simple meal could change the boy's life. She also understood that helping others wasn't always easy. The challenges in her work and the criticisms from those around her made her think and reconsider. But in the end, she decided to continue her actions because she believed that every good deed had its value. And sometimes, change starts with the smallest things. On a cold Thursday, Mary noticed the boy didn't show up at the diner. At first, she didn't think much about it, but by the end of the day, the concern started to settle in her heart. She prepared his usual plate of pancakes and placed it on his empty booth, hoping he would come, but by the end of the evening, the plate was still untouched. She felt something was wrong, and deep inside, the worry about the boy's disappearance started to haunt her. The next day, the boy didn't show up either. Mary continued to prepare the leftover food for him, but her hopes were no longer as strong as before. While those around her thought the boy had left, Mary couldn't stop thinking about his absence. Had he just been a wandering child? And once the help stopped, he would disappear. These questions swirled in Mary's mind, and every time she thought about them, a sadness she couldn't explain overwhelmed her. She began to reflect on her actions, wondering if she had been foolish to help someone she didn't know anything about. The boy's absence left a void in Mary's life. She didn't know the boy's relationship with his family or why he came to the diner every day. But his absence made her feel strange, and she couldn't shake the feeling of loss. She realized that even though these small acts might not change the world, they had made someone feel loved, at least for a moment. One day, when Mary walked into the diner as usual, she felt something different in the air. The diner was still busy, but a strange feeling of silence surrounded her, making her feel uneasy. She continued her work, but her heart was still troubled, worried about the boy who had been absent for several days. She prepared his usual meal and placed it on his table as a routine, hoping he would return today. At 9 a.m., as Mary was refilling coffee at a booth near the window, she suddenly noticed a big change. First, there was an unusual noise outside. 4 black SUVs with government plates parked in front of the diner, creating a sudden silence. Everyone in the diner stopped talking, their eyes focused on this unusual scene. The 4 SUVs seemed to carry something special. As soldiers emerged and stood in attention beside the vehicles, Mary began to feel that this had something to do with the boy. Just as she thought, a man in military uniform, tall and stern, stepped out from the lead vehicle. He wore formal military attire, and the medals on his chest shone in the morning light. Mary sensed the solemn atmosphere, and everyone in the diner fell silent as this man walked in. He approached the counter and placed an official envelope on Mary's table. She felt her heart race as she heard him say, "I'm looking for someone named Mary, the woman who helped a boy named Adam." Mary froze, her mind swirling. Adam was the boy who had sat quietly in the diner every morning. But now, his story was different. He introduced himself as Colonel David Reeves from the U.S. Army Special Forces Command. He opened the envelope and withdrew a letter, and everything changed from there. The boy Adam, whom she had been helping, was not just any hungry child but the son of a soldier who had fallen in the war. In the letter, Adam's father wrote that when he died, he wanted to thank Mary for helping his son, thanking her for feeding him, giving him care, without asking any questions. At that moment, an overwhelming wave of emotion flooded over Mary. She realized the significance of small acts of kindness, deeds that can change a life without needing thanks or recognition. She never imagined that a nameless boy would have such a deep and meaningful story. With tears in her eyes, Mary accepted the letter and felt a new belief rise in her heart about the value of kindness and unconditional giving. This story didn't just change Mary's life, it changed the lives of those around her, especially those who had once mocked her. With one small act, Mary didn't just feed a hungry child, she honored a soldier's dignity and became a symbol of kindness in her community. The story of Mary and Adam is not just a tale of humanity, it's a profound lesson about the power of small acts. In a world often busy and cold, we sometimes forget that each kind gesture, each smile, each simple meal can create changes we can't even imagine. Mary didn't seek recognition, nor did she chase after glory. She simply did what was right in her capacity, feeding a hungry child without asking why. That was a small act, but it meant a lifetime of gratitude for Adam and his father. The lesson from this story is that not everything big or outstanding has meaning. Sometimes, the simplest things bring the biggest changes in life. Give without thinking, be the one to bring hope and comfort to others. Even if you don't know who they are, small acts can make this world a better place.